Have you ever lived in a community that has an HOA? Well, today's story is exactly about the HOA, but I would only be showing you guys an HOA story if it was absolutely crazy, and that's what we got ourselves today. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of it, and then we're going to hop into the story because this one is so nuts. This kid, I think he was 14 years of age, gets hit on his bicycle, knocked off, and he has a spine injury, has to have massive surgery, and they tried to install a ramp at his house so he could use a wheelchair to get inside his home. Well, guess what? The HOA sends them a letter that says, oh no, you can't have this ramp here, it's an eyesore. The father of the house tried to explain very calm at first. Well, you don't understand. No, I need this ramp here because my son literally just got hit by a teenage driver in your neighborhood, which I'm going to court about, and the only way he can get inside his house is if he has this ramp. They weren't having it. They said it's an eyesore. They said it's going to lower the property value, and guys, you won't believe the response to this. A bright orange HOA notice was taped to my front door this morning, flapping in the wind like it was personally mocking me. Unauthorized construction, it read, and just like that I hit my absolute limit. I knew moving into the suburbs meant dealing with an HOA. I was prepared for the usual suburb nonsense, lawn-linked regulation, passive-aggressive emails about garbage cans, and maybe even a rogue Karen or two throwing a fit over the color of my mailbox. But never in my worst nightmares did I think that I would be battling a bunch of clipboard-wielding, power-dunk people over my own kid's ability to enter his own home. So guys, here's like the full lore. 5 years ago, my wife Hannah and I decided to ditch the city life. You know, we were just tired of all the hustle and bustle, the endless traffic, the soul-sucking cost of living that had seriously considering selling a kidney just to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. We wanted space. We did. I mean, obviously we wanted it bad. A yard, a nice quiet community where our son Caleb could actually play outside without us worrying about him dodging a taxi or stepping on a used needle. Enter Willow Ridge. The brochure made it look like a suburban paradise, quiet streets, friendly neighbors, and the perfect spot to go ahead and raise a family. See, like looks can be deceiving. Fools, we bought into the dream. At first, it was exactly what we had hoped for. I work remotely in a software development company, which basically means I get paid to wear pajamas and argue in JavaScript. Anyways, Hannah, ever the supermom, took over full time just to be a homemaker in her duties. She loves it. Made friends with the PTA moms, joined the neighborhood book club, and even started volunteering at Caleb's little elementary school. Caleb thrived. He was the kid who could never sit still and always running, climbing, and racing his bike down the street like a little daredevil. He had a group of neighborhood friends, and together they ruled the blind alley like a gang of playful troublemakers. Life was good. And then everything just changed. A month ago. One evening, Caleb was riding his bike home from the park when a speeding teenager hit him. It wasn't just an accident, it was reckless, preventable, and life-changing. The driver walked away without so much as a scratch, while Caleb suffered a spinal injury that changed his whole life. When I filed a FIR against the driver, his family, once friendly neighbors, turned hostile overnight as if I was the villain for holding them accountable. At first, we were too overwhelmed to notice the shift in our so-called friendly neighborhood. We were drowning in hospital bills, therapy sessions, and the sheer heartbreak of watching our 7-year-old struggle to, live his new reality. After weeks in the hospital, Caleb was finally discharged, but only temporarily. Daily physiotherapy sessions and the appointed date of surgery still kept us tied to the hospital. When he came home, all we wanted was to make things easy for him. So I built a simple wooden wheelchair ramp, nothing fancy, just a way for my kid to enter his own darn home without being carried up the stairs. That's when the community decides to show their true colors. Someone, more precisely the teen driver's parents, complained to the HOA about the wooden ramp outside my home. The notice from the HOA hit me like a brick in the face. Unauthorized construction, it claimed. Failure to submit design modification for approval. Oh, and my favorite part, structure does not conform to the neighborhood aesthetic. Yeah, right. Of course, because this small wooden ramp is somehow more offensive to the neighborhood's aesthetics than the tacky, oversized holiday inflatable the Wilsons put out every December. Ugh. I've tried to play nice with these people, I really have. But between the legal battles, the endless medical paperwork, and just the day-to-day exhaustion of adjusting to this new normal, my patience is gone. They weren't there when we spent sleepless nights in the hospital. They weren't there when we had to explain to Caleb why he could not chase his friends anymore. They weren't there for the screaming meltdowns, the frustration, his heartbreak. And now they want me to fill out paperwork, wait 6 to 8 weeks for approval, and possibly revise my son's only means of getting into his own damn home. I'm done. I don't even know what my next move is. File an appeal, lawyer up, see the notice on fire, and mail the ashes back to the HOA president. Tempting, but probably illegal. I feel like I'm drowning between hospital visits, prescriptions, dealing with the lawsuit against the driver, and how this HOA nonsense, and I just can't focus on anything. My job is suffering and my marriage is strained, and I haven't had a decent night's sleep in weeks. I had just some kind of motivation, some perspective, something to remind me that I'm not insane for thinking that this is completely mind-blowingly unfair. So guys, what do I do? Right now, my only viable option is to stare at this HOA notice until it bursts into flames from sheer willpower. I just want my kid to be able to enter his own home. Is that too much to ask for? I feel like I shouldn't even have to post this. This is ridiculous. Update number 1. 2 weeks later, I would love to tell you things have improved, that common sense prevailed, that the HOA pulled their heads out of their collective butts and did the bare minimum of human decency, but no. Because that would imply I live in a world where reason and empathy exist, and clearly I don't. First, I just want to say thank you, seriously. The support, the advice, and straight up the righteous anger from my last post gave me and my wife the motivation to push through the insanity. If nothing else, it reminded me that normal, decent human beings do not exist somewhere outside of this soulless HOA-ruled hellscape. I just wish any of them lived in my neighborhood. So what happened since? Strap in, because the past 2 weeks have been a walking nightmare, and I'm running on fumes. Between handling Caleb's therapy, fighting with insurance again, and going to and from just to take my teen driver to get his little punishment, keeping up with work so I don't lose my job, and maintaining some semblance of order in our household with Hannah, I barely have time to eat, let alone engage in this BS HOA war. But we tried, oh did we try. So Hannah and I, we went through like every single official channel. We submitted medical documentation providing Caleb's condition, had his doctor write a letter explaining in single, simple terms that he physically could not enter our home without a ramp. We even cited the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is the ADA, to remind them that the shocker, discrimination against a disabled child is in fact illegal. All of this was presented in a formal request for an exemption. Sandra, the president of the HOA, who also happens to be close acquaintances of the team driver's family, and of course the board, they took a whole 3 days to reject it. Their reasoning, accommodations must be visually cohesive with the neighborhood aesthetics. Yeah, let that sink in. Not the structure's unsafe, not you violated zoning reg, just straight up it's ugly. And we don't like looking at it, because that's what really matters here, right? Not the 7-year-old who needs just to access his own home. Not the family already drowning in stress and medical bills, oh no. What's truly important is that my wooden wheelchair ramp doesn't match Karen's overpriced home good porch decor. And if that wasn't enough, things took an even uglier turn. Someone, gee, I wonder who, starts a petition to remove the ramp. Yes, really. An actual printed out petition had been circulating through the neighborhood because apparently my child's basic human rights are now up for a vote. The petition claims that the ramp is an eyesore and will be bringing down property values. Because God forbid the sacred home values take a hit if this crumbling household markets. A few neighbors of the teen driver's family had the audacity to try to bring it up to us in that fake concerned patronizing tone subordinates have perfected. It's just, we all work so hard to keep the neighborhood looking a certain way, and if we make exceptions for you, then where does it stop? I don't know. Where does it stop? Are they seriously acting like accessibility for a disabled child is some kind of slippery slope and total disorder? Like next week, I'm going to install a roller coaster on my front lawn and a hot dog stand in the driveway. It's a ramp. A small, simple, completely reasonable modification to accommodate a medical necessity. Not a neon sign that says we hate HOA. The absolute worst part. The petition is getting signatures. At least 30 homes have signed it, which means there's dozens of people in this neighborhood who look at my child in this wheelchair and think, oh yeah, his ability to enter his house is less important than my resale value. I'm beyond exhausted. Every day I wake up and juggle a never-ending to-do list that just keeps getting longer. Caleb's therapy, insurance flights, and the legal mess with the teen driver who hit him despite his family plotting against us, working, deadlines, keeping up with every single bit of the bills. I mean, supporting my wife through her own emotional exhaustion? Now add fight the HOA over a literal necessity to that list, and I'm at my breaking point. I can't believe this is my reality. I can't believe that there's people in this world that are soulless. I can't believe that instead of spending what little free time I have being there for my son, I'm spending it reading bylaws and ADA regulations just to prove that my child has a right to live in his own damn home. Update number 2. Life has been an absolute circus in these past 2 weeks, except instead of fun clowns and popcorn, it's just me juggling work, Caleb's therapy, insurance battles, household chores, and now this ever-present joy of being ostracized by my neighbors. Well, the cold shoulders from once friendly neighbors who genuinely cared about Caleb before. Yeah, that was just the warm-up act. Now we're in the passive-aggressive note phase. Anonymous letters were left on our porch, in our mailbox, and even taped to our darn trash bin, all carrying the same veiled suggestion. Perhaps a more suitable home would be best for your situation. Oh, you mean a home where my disabled kid isn't treated like a literal burden on the aesthetic purity of the neighborhood? Yeah, no crap. If moving was as simple as 1, 2, 3, we'd be long gone. But shocker, we have roots here. Caleb's school, his therapy, the nearest center of my remote job, my wife's entire support network. Relocation isn't just some weekend project like, oh, you guys are right, see ya. But sure, let me just uproot our entire lives so these lunatics don't have to suffer the horror of seeing a wooden ramp. Then, the real crap show began. A few days ago, we finally got the surgery date for Caleb, a standard procedure part of his ongoing treatment, but still nerve-breaking as hell. Hannah and I spent the entire day at the hospital running on caffeine fumes and stress, just trying to keep it together. The last thing on our mind was what was happening back home. Turns out, we should have been watching our backs because while we were out, Sandra and her little HOA minions with 10 drivers, parenting, decided to take matters into their own hands. These absolute psychopaths trespassed onto my property. Yeah, my property with tools and straight up dismantled the ramp. Just to get it apart, like they were performing some kind of messed up neighborhood service project. What they didn't know, I'm a software engineer. My home security system isn't some like off-the-shelf Ring camera setup that TikTokers use. It is state-of-the-art AI, okay? Powered Fortress. I'm talking live feed cameras, motion sensors, automatic alerts straight to my phone, and the second those little HOA goons stepped onto my property, my phone blew up like it was in real time. I watched it. Real time, right there, the footage, as they took crowbars and some tools to the ramp, gleefully tearing it apart like some kind of personal victory. And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, Sandra, in all her smug glory, actually said the quiet part out loud. Handicapped ramps lower our home values. I was shaking, fuming, but before I could even fully process the ridiculous entitlement I was witnessing, blue light started to flash. Turns out my security system doesn't just alert me, it also automatically calls the police during the break-in. So, as Sandra and her squad went full demolition mode, a patrol car pulls up. The officer caught them red-handed, literally. Crowbars in hand, pieces of my property scattered everywhere, and they still stood there like they had the right to do it. Obviously, I pressed charges. And here's where things get crazy. As part of the legal process, I had to submit the security footage to the police report. This means eventually it became public record, right? You can request it. And you know what happens when a video of an entitled HOA president and the offender gets caught vandalizing a disabled child's accessibility ramp while saying something objectively evil hits the internet? Oh, yeah. When that video became public, the internet does what it does best. Within hours, the footage was everywhere. All the major YouTubers, it went viral. We're talking news articles, Twitter threads, reaction videos, memes, TikToks, and even an auto-tuned remix of Sandra's now infamous line, "Handicap ramps, lower our value." It blew up, and I assume you guys must have seen it by now yourself, probably. Sandra went from ruling this neighborhood like some suburban dictator to being public enemy number one. Strangers from across the country flooded the HOA's official website, demanding accountability. The teen driver, the guy who hit my child, and his family were facing the wrath of the internet. Local newspapers covered the story, then national news. And suddenly all these neighbors who had been signing petitions against them, they started backpedaling fast. Turns out people don't want to be associated with someone who gets caught on camera literally destroying accessibility for a disabled kid. Oh, who would have known? The culprit of my child's situation is facing around-the-court hearings along with his parents for bullying us. I'll make sure to serve them when they deserve for crossing my family, but for now the HOA board is scrambling. They've visited some half-baked PR statement about how they've never approached this in the right way, and they'd never approve Sandra's actions, how they deeply regret the situation and are committed to inclusivity. Absolute garbage. These same people rejected my exemption a week ago. They only care now because they got caught. Meanwhile, Sandra disappeared, no emails, no response, not even the usual passive-aggressive HOA newsletter. Rumor has it she lawyered up, but honestly, she has no defense. She committed trespassing, destruction of property, and probably a dozen other crimes on camera. And now we wait. The legal process is playing out, but at this point I have options. Between the viral attention, the lawyer we've hired, and the sheer number of people outraged on our behalf. This fight is not just ours anymore, people are watching. I don't know what's next. Maybe Sandra will get formally charged. Maybe the HOA collapses under the weight of this PR nightmare. Maybe we finally get the hell out of this godforsaken neighborhood and never look back. But what I do know is that for the first time in months, I do not feel like we're fighting this alone. Update number 3. Hey guys, I'm back with an update, so let me get into it. I woke up this morning to the sound of power tools. Not HOA-mandated harassment this time, but something actually good for once. Elliot Manning, that's right, a contractor who apparently saw the viral footage of Sandra's greatest hits, was outside with his crew mid-construction on a brand new high-end sleek-as-hell wheelchair ramp. For free. Oh, and this thing, it's not just some slapped-together pile of wood, it's a work of art. Sleek metal rails, polished wood, and a design so seamless it makes the rest of our house look outdated. If this is an eyesore, then I guess I need to bulldoze my whole darn property. You know, the boy who ran his car over my child, he's serving jail time in juvie, while his parents are also given their fitting punishment. Meanwhile, Sandra, she's living in a completely different reality, and by that I mean the absolute worst timeline. The internet did its thing, and she was voted out as HOA president in record time. Her name was dragged through every online neighborhood forum, and the cherry on top, she's facing criminal trespassing charges. Turns out, when you physically destroy someone's property while being filmed in high definition, there's consequences behind that. The cops were not exactly falling over themselves to act before, but once the footage went viral, they had no option. Her smug little army of HOA troops scattered like cockroaches they are. Some resigned, some are still trying to keep their heads down, but the damage is done. But am I satisfied? No. Because I've seen the depths this woman will sink to, and I don't trust that she won't pull some last-ditch attempt to screw us over. The HOA still is a mess, and while she's gone, her loyal minions are hanging around, waiting for things to calm down so they can get back to their power tripping. Not happening. She messed with my family, she hurt my kid, and I'm making dang sure that she pays for it. Not with just a public shame, not with just a slap on the wrist fine. I want her to understand, in a way that she never forgets that she messed with the wrong people. Final updates. So, a month has lapsed since my last post, and let me tell you, there's nothing quite as satisfying as seeing karma go to action. I finally did it. I served justice, I got my revenge, I made sure Sandra paid for every ounce of stress, every tear my wife shed, and every pain my kid went through. See, I'm a software engineer, I've told you that already. I live and breathe systems, loopholes, digital paper trails, so while I was dealing with Caleb's recovery, balancing work and making sure my wife did not completely lose her marbles, I was also quietly digging into the HOA's financials. Turns out Sandra ran that place like her own personal piggy bank. Years of mismanagement, favoritism, and straight-up shady allocations. Funds that were supposed to go to neighborhood maintenance gone. It was violations particularly overlooked by her inner circle. Oh yeah, it was a full-blown corruption page, and I documented it all. Well, at first I considered just exposing her within the community, but then I thought, why stop there? This woman has made my life a living hell, and I wasn't about to let her walk away with nothing but online humiliation? No, I'm gonna make sure that she felt the consequence in every way possible. I sent it off to state regulators, and because I wanted to make sure this wasn't just swept under the rug, oh no, I also forwarded it to the local investigative journalist who has a history of exposing HOA corruption, and he loved that little viral video of ours. Once the audit hit, well, you can imagine, it hit pretty hard. Within a few weeks, fines started rolling in. Sandra's perfect world fell apart. The same people who backed her and signed that stupid petition against my ramp turned on her fast. Turns out they didn't care about neighborhood aesthetics anymore when they saw the HOA was about to be collapsing. It was pure chaos, and I loved every single second. Well, the planning process, it took some time, but people were more than willing to contribute once they knew Sandra was out of power. Donations came in from all over the local business, former HOA members, and even a few people who had initially sided against me, but now realized they've been siding with the wrong house. It was like the entire neighborhood wanted to erase her influence and take back some sense of community that she stripped away with her iron fist rule. Well, let me tell you. When the first shovel hit the ground, I've never felt more satisfied in my life. Watching her face when construction of the playground began, pure gold. She tried to fight it, of course, complained to the new HOA board, tried to pull some last-minute legal maneuvering, and even went as far as to call in a few favors. But it's too late. The new board wasn't having it. They were just too busy cleaning up the financial disaster that she left behind to entertain her tantrum. You want to know the best part? She couldn't do a damn thing about it. Guys, let me know. Have you ever had any HOA nightmares? I'm glad mine's over.